Alan.
Hi, Amnon.
Hi. היה עירוב מאוד יפה בסרטה הבאה.
Hi, Amnon.
Hello,
Hi,
Harry, how are you?
Hello, Harry.
fine. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Harry. Missing you. We haven't seen you for a long time. Harry, you want to make sure you have light on your face.
So
You
a bit,
have,
Yes, and I'll have to then, well, that is the problem that in fact I have two screens and one screen, well, this is better, yeah?
right. It's very important to remember
Okay, good.
important stuff.
Yeah. So yes, before we talk to our partners of Schukalp, Amnon, I had also discussions with the board of my club. Is if we are going to continue this activity, what are exactly the terms, financial terms in the first place for continuing it? The feeling is very good, but what I need, and I would like to do it, you have been in a Rotary Club yourself, what I would like is to present a concrete, hello Olta, a precise proposal where we put everything there. There's not too much of a discussion.
Okay. Do you think that they will have DDF funds available or only from what they have from the card? Oh, I see Oleta here. Oleta, how are you?
Hi, Olta.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good.
No, I think let's discuss it later.
Okay, so we'll discuss it later. Very good. Okay. Now we have Elisabetta coming in.
Elisabetta.
Excellent.
Long time, Elisabetta.
Hello.
Elisabetta, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Good, very good. We really are good. First of all, you know, we're completely vaccinated, so it's okay. But strangely enough, you know, there's just this week, we have a lot of people coming from with the Indian variant.
Oh, yeah.
And it's strange, and we have a little rise, you know, of the infection now in Israel, which is really kind of strange because we are almost like, I don't know 100%, but very close to it. So
Yeah.
it was as if everything was gone. Now we have about 100 people infected. There were a few, they were not careful enough at the airport. So we had a few people infected coming into two cities, and then they went to school with children, and school right away. We had 40 students at each school, and so two cities became infected, and they have to wear masks. We had a graduation party today at one school, elementary school, and we all wore masks and all that, which were only last week they were removed. So the need to wear masks last week was canceled across the country, but now it's back again. So You know, this thing is going to be with us for a long time. It's not simple.
And that's heartbreaking to hear. I mean, we're not that close to you anyways with vaccination here. They haven't reported any Indian variant yet, but who knows? I mean, if it is already in Israel, you know, it's not
Yeah.
hard to get here.
We
And
just
I'm sure
we just
around
have
us.
to keep behaving as if, you know, that this is
Exactly.
there. And I think the most important thing is to minimize the overseas travel. Because if you are going overseas and you sit in an airplane with someone that's infected, by the
Yeah.
time you land, everybody in the airplane is infected. And it's
Exactly.
very difficult to check in the airports and all that. So I think the best thing to do for the coming year is just to stop traveling. Also good for the environment. So
Yeah, that's right. Sorry.
We have a little bit the same, the Netherlands is a little bit between Israel and Albania. We are we're getting our vaccinations up to speed, so everybody can now apply for vaccinations, and they are doing something like 1 million per week, so they're really up to speed. But
1 million is what percentage wise?
well, we have a population of about 15 million.
Oh, 15. Okay.
So we will be fully vaccinated somewhere in August, or at least the critical level of 70%. But we have, of course, now all school kids who passed their examinations. They knew that they were free to travel, so they hit the airport for Spain and Italy, and they're now importing the Delta mutant, and it is spread all over the country. But these are young people resistant, and it is not has been translated yet to an increase in hospitalization. So they're still mildly optimistic, but as you said, unknown. This is going to stay with us for at least 1 more year.
Mm-hmm. I will try to connect with my cell phone as well, because I think the sound will be better this way, or I will try from here. We'll see. Okay, so we want to do a little summary on what we did, and then plan for how to continue. We had different than what we had in the first meeting that we had, where we didn't have a summary with all the clubs. Now we actually completed the discussions and the summary with all the schools on the program, 100%. And the feedback is really very, very impressive. Even I was surprised. You know, we have you know, very good overall response and satisfaction. You know, a lot of people have ideas on how to do things maybe differently here and there, but basically I think it is sounds okay. Do you hear me okay now?
You're fine.
Yes, we hear you fine.
Okay, very good. I hear you better this way. So we have, you know, very good satisfaction, and so now we know, because we were talking with you, you know, very early on feedback, and so now we have more from others. Okay, Ram, you want to lead? We want to know what you did onwards, and if you have anything to add on the summary, and then to discuss a little bit on next year. So Ram, please lead the way.
I have not seen
Okay,
the summary
Just a minute. Hi, what were you saying?
I have not received the summary of the results. So are we talking about all the schools or about the schools in Albania?
No, we did individual calls with every you know, country, with every school in Israel, and with every country overseas, and we recorded the calls. And we analyzed, and we have some overall summary that we're putting together. But the most important thing was that we had conclusion talks with every school. And the main things, just to give you a feel for main thing, we had the following things. First of all, people were very, very excited with the international collaboration and with the provided background. Everybody was appreciative of the STEM aspect and the way we combined it with the curricula. On that subject, we carried it one step forward with the Romanian group, which had 4 Rotary clubs and 4 schools, and was really very elaborate. And we actually went ahead and studied in detail the Romanian education system, the curricula, or the formal curricula of the country, which we found, not surprising at all, to be very, very similar to the curricula in Israel in terms of sciences, because science is science. So everybody's teaching physics and chemistry and life sciences, pretty much very similar principles, so that our means of connecting STEM on water to the education curricula, which we did in Israel by far more than what we exposed, on the twinning. But for instance, if you take Newton's law, motion, speed, forces, and what have you, as it relates to water in pumping or moving water or energy associated with water, so the same applies very much the same way in Romania, and the same on chemistry and biology and so forth. So we did that, and all the schools want to proceed, almost all, except one school in Kosovo where the teacher will change, so we don't know yet. But aside from that, all the schools want to proceed. And this is like a very impressive result, because we had 50 schools, 35 in Israel and 15 around the world. And we actually haven't lost any school. And aside from that school in Kosovo, which we don't know yet. And everybody was complaining, of course, on the fact that this was too short, because of the corona and the late starting and so forth. People felt that they could gain more through the program, which is true. But on the other hand, we wanted to be able to conclude around March. And this is also very, very important. Concluding on March is important for the schools because they can then use the reports, the posters, everything they do for internal presentations if they have a national science competition or they have some other activities. So they can use the same work for that. So this is why we wanted to conclude before the International Water Day, so that it is early and people can use it. So yes, as a result, it was not, schools felt they could do more. And this came about especially with the schools in Albania that felt, this is early and they wanted to continue. So we will talk now about what else did they do and how we can help on that. So that was also common. Everybody was very appreciative of the presentation, the preparation for it, the website, the interaction with students and so forth. Everybody was appreciative of that cycle. We enjoyed it very much as well. This, I think, are the most important things that we hear. And of course, we will for next year continue to prepare more content, because we only have the leading 5 pieces of content which we translated, and of course there is room to do more. And some schools did really translate it to local languages. Romanian did a wonderful job. Some was translated in Poland as well. So yes, this is something that also was done differently for different schools. The interaction with the Rotary was very good. All the clubs were very excited with it. And in fact, we had, between the meeting that we had And about a month ago, the TRF has approached our international coordinator, the international committee leader, Dr. Jerry Sussman from Florida, who acts as the spearhead for the TRF. And they interviewed him in depth about the program because they told him that our program was one of the 3 leading global grants in the entire Rotary that are considered successful in the sense that we are sustainable, that we had 3 global grants and that we continue. There are very few global grants that last that long, that continue. And the reason for that, by the way, is the fact that there is a long gap when you complete a grant and you need to report it. And even if you issue another one, and even if you are approved, it can take a year between them. And then what happens in the interim, and that's a known problem that we have cited to the Rotary, and we are working now towards solutions. So we will talk about this shortly so that we can continue next year. But with that, it was a very excellent review that we had from them. And then they published something in the Rotarian to that effect. So they covered, I think, about 6 projects, and they covered our project as well in the Rotarian. We also had, while we talk about global exposure, we were asked by a group in Germany, in Köln, that had a e-Ryla instead of Ryla because they couldn't have exchange. They had an e-Ryla meeting with many, many clubs, and they asked us to prepare. So in fact, we were the first to prepare, and Mr. Knack, the president, was there, and so he recognized the program and so forth. So it was, so we had quite some overall exposure, and we intend to continue on that. The one big group that we had tentative for the twinning that did not participate at all in practice was India. India wanted to come on board, they paid, they prepared, but then Corona was so bad in India that they actually shut down the schools. So there wasn't a question of doing it at home or anything. There were no schools, period. So they couldn't come on board. I thought that we could come up with a solution, at least do a teacher's training or do something, but they were in such a bad shape that they didn't want to even, talk on that. So they approach us again now recently, and they would come on board next year. So this is, in short, the key elements of the summary. Ram, am I missing anything major? You're muted,
Nope.
Ram. I think I
I just want to say, I want to add that I would just say that the participation of the schools from Albania was very successful, even in terms of the twinning project itself.
Is limited. Ram, your bandwidth is very limited, so you sound not too bad, not too good. We can't hear you, so
Yeah.
Shut off the video. Maybe try now.
Okay.
If you shut off the video, it will maybe better. Okay.
You hear me now better?
No, not much better. I don't know.
No.
Speakers or the something is
That much better, yeah.
Yeah. Slightly.
Okay, Ram, so let me continue, and you will catch up, see what you can do. So you can turn on the video because you don't. Okay, so first of all, let us hear if you did anything more in terms of the program, and there's any need for additional support in terms of the activities, the school year ended, and so let's cover that aspect. So what can you tell us on that?
I think maybe Elisabeth, I was out of the country, intensively traveling to the Netherlands, and now back for a couple of days, and then I move back. But I will be more or less full-time back in Albania, starting from July, with 2 vaccinations and hopefully a Corona passport.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So
Yeah.
what do you say, Elisabetta?
So Now, I just want to, I think Ram was, he wanted to congratulate the Albanian schools, and I'm happy
Sure.
that our children picked up so fast in such a short period of time, and they delivered projects at that kind of quality, and most importantly, they were very excited about the program. Having said that, Amnon, I need to share this, and for me, it's a little bit hard to understand who does what in this activity. Like in the army, they say lead, follow, or get the hell out of the way. So I am not exactly sure in which position Shukal is. I think we're following and supporting, uh, but my understanding is that you are leading, and, and of course we are supporting the relationship with the schools, but you are leading the program, right? So you tell them what's the program, what the program is, what they need to do, and this kind of stuff. We can do the leading part very well. And we can take a more active role on that, and that's what I would like to do. I mean, to act on that role because we're closer to them. So having said this, I want to say that we haven't really followed that much. We have done what Ram has asked, as we understand, and don't correct me here if I'm wrong, as what was needed to be done. I know that the schools have been working, and we were very happy to hear. Olga has been in touch with them, that they have developed further their projects, and now they want to do some kind of demonstration to make like a maquette, like yes, to
Model.
build something, a model, yes.
Right.
And we will support them with that. We plan to do that through the engagement of Tirana Water Utility, because that's the idea of this program, right? To create that connection also with water utilities.
Okay.
So we will do that part. It's just, for me, it's confusing a little bit the position of Shukal. As I said, we can do the leading part with your support, but it's just better for the next one. I mean, this was a pilot anyways, but for the next phase, it's better to clarify those positions.
Right. Let's look at that. Better. Let's discuss this. This is excellent. This is the fact that you come back with this question and reference to the project is the first indication that the pilot was excellent, in the sense that it raised the issue and it brings it, so now we can discuss it. So here are a few points to it. Number one, your leadership position is extremely welcomed. We want that. So if you can understand and have a message that you want to deliver, a direction that you want to emphasize, an activity, you want to direct it we welcome it. We really are there to excite and trigger and inspire such activity with you and SOCAM and all the arrangement, including with the Rotary, and more importantly, even with the teachers, with the way they relate to the students, so that they take leadership position. And the fact is that we really want the children to take leadership positions. So we want them to think independently and to dictate what they want. Of course, they are young, they need more guidance and so forth. But yes, our thinking all around is such that we want the initiative, the inspiration, the independence, the leadership in terms of guidance and management and so forth. One of the key elements is this is self-managed learning. So if we can get a group of students to learn by themselves what they manage, they decide what it is, what they do, they build a plan and so forth, execute it. Of course, with the help of the teachers, and then you help the teachers and we help you, yes, this is all okay. But at the top of the pyramid are the children, and coming downwards is the entire chain. And you, of course, have a wonderful, most important role. And if we can look at this as an independent activity in Albania, where you lead it, and we even make, a tailor-made mix of support. You know,
Yeah.
now we support you, the utilities will come in, the academia will come in, and you can make the blend, you know, more from high teach, more from the academia, even, you know, create something of your own that we can take as a model and show the people in Romania what was done in Albania and so forth, which, by the way, we do with the Romanian leadership because they really did that. They lead the way and they have their own ideas. So by all means, feel free to do it. You know, we say one other thing about what, because this is so new and so innovative. So one of the slogans that we have in mind is that we dare to err. So by all means, go ahead and dare to err. You know, we will make mistakes, but that's okay. This is what we're here for. We want to make not just errors, we want to have some successes as well. But yes, go ahead, dare to err and lead. And what we can provide you is a bouncing board for your ideas. If you have ideas and you say, all right, well, this year we want to concentrate more on water saving, prevention of leakage, effective use of water and all that, not the resources, not the reclamation, but rather how to use it effectively. We have a wealth of content, and so we can discuss it with you and show you what we did, so you can use our experience not as a, you know, as a dictate, but rather as a knowledge pool and an experience pool, and you bounce ideas off of us, and we can respond to you, and this will make your path, you know, more effective. You may elect to choose from our experience or to do something else or prove us wrong, by all means. But by all means, sit in the driver's seat. This is where we want you.
Yeah. Yeah. May I also say something in this respect? I agree with you, Amnon. I think probably it's the only way. I was looking at your plans for India, and probably you are there in the same situation, because how can you drive? Are we talking about 100,000 schools,
Right.
500,000 schools? The figures are enormous.
Right.
Albania is, of course, much more manageable, but still, when we are talking about something like 60 utilities, there's a lot of work there to be done. So I think in principle, it's the idea is right that we should empower Shukal to deliver the program. It's only now a matter of resources from your side and also from the side of Shukal, whether you can deliver at the end of the day.
Right, right. So what we have for that, you know, this is such an excellent question, and the way you presented it, Elisabetta, is just excellent, because what we really want to do is be able to empower you to do that. So we know for a fact that it is not simple to run effective education programs in the school. The fact that we want you to lead doesn't necessarily translate into simplicity or ease of doing. It's a big challenge. And it's not for no reason that we have this experience and that we are willing to share it and so forth, and sort of have the intuition of sort of dictating, or at least saying, you know what, because we made a lot of mistakes. We did really make a lot of mistakes over the 22 years that we operated. And that's how you learn. So we are gladly willing to share some of those principles and to tell you, you know, from our experience, what right and what wrong. And just to give you a feel, one thing is this leadership issue as you raised, and another is to be very, very attentive. The leadership starts by listening to what the schools really, really need. In other words, we know that they do not need a program on water, that they will investigate a whole year studying. Water per se is not a part of anybody's curriculum to the point that they will spend a whole year studying it. So if you listen to them, what you find out, of course, most schools will eventually, after spending some time, eventually you get to the curricula because they have to provide, they have to produce value in physics, in chemistry,
Right.
mathematics, English. These are in the curricula because the government wants them all to understand English and to be able to speak and communicate and to be able to do their math and to combine the two and so forth. So if you are attentive and you listen to the school and you find out what the needs are, if they have excellent, sciences, but they feel weak on, maybe, human studies and all that, the history, the culture, and so forth. All right, we can emphasize that. Or the interdisciplinary aspect. How do you combine mathematics and physics and chemistry, which usually is a huge problem? They teach them in different silos. You study the mathematics, it is not connected to the physics. They can look at the same equation, but it comes in a different silo and they don't mix it, they don't connect it and so forth. We do. So that's,
Right.
so you listen to the schools and you study what their needs are. And this, by the way, is very costly because you must do it for every school anew because the emphasis of the schools are different. One school is weak in mathematics and wants some assistance there. Another school wants to emphasize green and, hydroponics and the environment and what have you and so forth. And the idea is that you want to come to the school with the program. We have our own agenda with the Rotary and with the utilities and so forth. But eventually they don't want to hear about preventing, paper towels, in the toilet because we know it jams the reclamation, but they don't want to spend too much time studying about it throughout the year. But if you are talking about the power and energy and force and what have you associated with pulling water and so forth, and you do Newton's law, and you provide an example of what happens if you put a lot of paper, cloth towels into the toilet, then all of a sudden it is a part of physics or chemistry or what have you. So that's, for instance, I'm just giving you an example. This is like one trick in a pool that you come and you use your ears. The basic leadership tool between you and the schools is to be attentive to their needs. It took us, Elisabetta, it took us solid 6 years of erroring before we realized that that's what we need to do, at which point we started to study the curricula ourselves to be able to know it. By today, we know the curricula better than the teachers. We know what the Ministry of Education requires. So we became proficient about it, but we still come and listen in the schools, so yes, by all means. So tricks like this and the knowledge that we have that will empower you as leaders, and that you will mix between those and take more content or more spirit or more pedagogy or flow chart or the way it's conducted in terms of the project management and timeline. And so you can do the mix. We can provide you those tools in general. We do this very, very formally in Israel, and we are considered in Israel formal teachers training, people that come to our trainings. And our trainings, by the way, are not training, they are on-the-job training, namely teachers that follow the courses with us from the beginning to the end and produce the project and show it at the conference and so forth. And if, of course, they get some e-learning teachers training along the way. But teachers that go through this cycle get a grade from us, from High Teach, and they get a certificate from the government and an increase on their salary for life. So we became very credible in that. And we can easily work with you so that you can get to the same position. So you do it once or twice and you develop the practice. Of course, you will do it in your own way with different emphasis and so forth. But the idea is that you, at the end of the day, really want to put the teachers in the same position where you want to be, and you want to support them. and be able to do. Now, in doing that, we will need to provide you content, some of it in a formal manner, some of it possibly, depending on the corona and so forth, maybe eventually either come to Albania or have a few of you come to us in Israel. We'll see, very much depending on the corona, but even if we don't have the corona solved yet, we can do this at least virtually for now. But yes, by all means, putting you in a leadership position and doing the work with you so that you can get there based on our knowledge and adapted the way you feel it should be adapted to local needs, local behavior, local culture, local finances, and what have you, local emphasis by the utilities, because eventually we want to work with the utilities and they have different agendas in different places. Some places have flooding challenges, others pollution, and others yet shortage of water. So we listen to the water utilities as well. And then we will tailor with you a program whereby you will be able to lead. And I think it shouldn't be very long. I think we can plan tentatively such that next year, maybe we make a mix. You know, we're still there with you until you feel more safe. But right away, we start with the approach that eventually we want you to be in that lead position. And we can work through the summer, at least on the choice of emphasis points. You know, what are the things, the agendas that you want to promote? We had a very, very detailed discussion like this with the utilities in Romania. We spoke with 3 utilities at length, and we got emphasis. Yeah.
Amnon, may I interrupt you for a moment?
Yes.
I fully agree with you, but just to summarize it, I understand it better. What we have seen, in fact, is that we have up to now a little bit been bypassing the teachers and reaching immediately the students.
Yeah.
That was not the original idea. The original idea is, in fact, that you want to train the teachers to make sure that they are delivering this program.
Absolutely.
And now what I think is what you are proposing is to strengthen Shukalp, to help them to train a core of teachers who are qualified to deliver your methodology. And see also, and that would be, of course, the challenge for Shukalp, whether we could then also have the Ministry of Education on board to recognize the, let's say, the re-engineered teachers. Huh?
Yes, absolutely. It has to be that way. And a word on that, the best way to develop that credibility with the government and especially with a country like, you know, Albania and all that, you know, where, you know, we in Israel are sort of very open-minded and very crazy. We jump from here to there and all that, you know, there's a lot of innovation and a lot of trial and error, you know, as a result. This is not typical to Eastern Europe in general and to, you know, it's not typical, period. But what is typical is that in order to win them over, proof of success is your best marketing tool. So analysis of what we did with the schools and the good results, and including what we feel we need to correct. That's okay. No one expects only good results. But the fact that we succeeded, we had a pilot, we learned, and what we're doing now is wonderful. And you know, how we intend to improve next week. The very notion of doing something as a step that we always expect to improve towards next step. So there's always reporting, analysis, open discussion, open analysis. There's no blaming, there's no finger pointing. There's always, you know, we dare to error, so we know there will be errors, but we improve, we analyze and we improve. This is the essence of excellence. And if you do that and you can show that you are progressing, then, you know, the government usually lets you do it. And some numbers, I mean, it's very hard to convince the government based on 2 schools, but 2 schools and then maybe 10 schools next year in more than 1 city, you're starting to show a trend.
Yeah, but I think what we now had, in fact, was getting to know each other. We are feeling the water. But
Right.
what we are discussing now has not really been actually dealt with. Training teachers to deliver the message. Ram did a wonderful job, but we need 10 Rams and you cannot find them. So we have now to focus on those teachers we had. We may expand to let's say 5 schools, but then really focus on getting those teachers in the methodology on board and that they can deliver. And then we will need, I think, an intensive monitoring also from your side to make sure that everything is going as it is planned.
Right.
Would
Right.
that
Exactly.
be a practical way of moving forward and to make sure, Elisabetta, that by the end of the school year 2001, 2002, you have a winning example for the Ministry of Education. This is a very potential way to do forward.
Yes.
And I think
Exactly.
uh,
I mean, this. Sorry, Harry. Please
I
continue.
think there's also one other thing, and then I would also look to the experience of Amnon. Is of course we are talking immediately also about money.
Right. Exactly. So and this
How
is
are we going? How are we going to fund these activities? The the idea of having it funded by the utilities is is not credible. Most of the utilities are losing money. And the round of every year, at least the utilities where I'm working, is who shall we have to fire this year?
hmm,
So the resources of the utilities are extremely limited.
mhm.
Yeah,
So
Okay.
we,
I mean, I can tell you they won't put money for this. I mean, they can support with some materials which they have at hand, but
yeah,
yes, they
no,
wouldn't put money on
the
this.
Tiranas, the Duretses might have some funds, but all the others just don't are able to pay their electricity bill.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, um,
So
so
this really is a challenge. Let's talk about this for a minute. The and I understand, what you say about the situation of the utilities, but in proportion, the sums of money that run, within the utilities are in the millions, or if you put, reclamation facilities or new infrastructures, like in the tens of millions of euro or more. So these are completely different numbers. So the kind of numbers
yeah,
that we need are really sort of minimal. So it's not on the same level of the fact that they're losing money. This could be, but anyhow, in order to be able to do this in a serious manner, we need to have much stronger support than what we did this year. What happened this year was that we had a grant that was intended for the schools in Israel, really, uh, and with the development of the content and so forth. And we cut part of it which was really allocated for schools and for the Rotary activity, with the schools and so forth. And we cut part of it in order to facilitate the pilot, because we thought it had a potential, and there was the need to try and expand this to the world, as Barry Rassin has asked and others. Um, but this is not going to happen again. In other words, we cannot have the program in Israel and with its funding sort of fund other activities. So we really must find local resources. It could be the municipality, it could be some donors, it could be the schools themselves. But in order to be able to run the program and run such a training course and support, we would need something to the tune of, $15,000-$20,000, some serious funding, so that we can really maybe come over, prepare content, and be very intensive in trying to do that, so that we don't do it on a minimal basis of very, very short shoestring. And it's very important to discuss now, because this is the time to really prepare. So I don't know if the Tirana Rotary Club can put up this kind of money, or if they have enough in the DDF, or maybe an outside company that contributes. I don't know the program, the company that's doing the project that you're on, Harry, or whatever you know. But these are the kind of numbers that we would need for every country to be able really to do a serious job. We
The
can do
way,
something minimal as well, you know, and continue like we did this year, but that's not what we want. We really want to be able to empower you. And so what do you think? What can we do in that respect?
Well, I think maybe, let us first try to define the amount of money we are talking about. I think if I would consider 2021, 2022 still as a kind of pilot with a limited number of schools,
Right.
I think the only thing what you need is probably to find a number of Albanian experts who will be able to with the trainers, volunteers to develop the trainers. I think for 1 year it will not be a big amount of money. I would not say more than something like 50,000 euro as a maximum. But I think, Elisabetta, it might be good if we would sit together and try to make a kind of a budget, what is needed, to consult with Arnold. Also, you have your experience in the other countries to see what is reasonable, and we might go shopping to donors. We might even go to other Rotary clubs.
Yeah, if I can say something, Harry. So the way we usually support our other programs, because we have a whole range of educational programs from third grade till a university level, is through, well, the idea has always been with Albanian money, meaning Albanian companies, you know, within their social responsibility, what do they call it?
Right, social responsibility.
Yeah.
Right. So within that, we have partnered with different companies in Albania through the years to support our programs. Now, that hasn't been the case every time. And unfortunately, we have also gone to donors, to foreign agencies to support the programs, and they have been very generous. But that's not sustainable in the long run.
Yeah.
Okay, it should be with Albanian money. Okay, somebody has to have an interest on these programs and to say, well, I'm investing for the future of, you know, water and young people. And so having said that, and having Rotary in Albania, a nice group of businessmen, and not only, I would very much like to see, if possible, if Rotary can help us, you know, harness that kind of money from this group of people. And we need a group of people who is dedicated at least for, I don't know, 5 years. It's not that they have to give us all the money, but they have to be serious in supporting this, not just for 1 year, and then the next year we still have to go somewhere else to find the money.
Yes.
Let me make a few comments on that, and these are all very good points. The Rotary is an excellent body to relate to and work with because of the credibility. The funds are limited and they're not becoming more available in terms of general. We will make an effort to apply for what is referred to in the Rotary. It's a new scheme called the Program of Scale. These are programs that are funded by $2 million. And there only one program like this is selected every year. We were cited by a few executives at the Rotary that we should apply because, so we will. But these programs, they take a year and a half to apply and submit and so on. Yeah. So this is long range that we can try, and we will pursue the avenue. There is possibly another avenue that we will also look into. And if the money is available from the Rotary, as I said, in form of DDF, of district designated funds, then it gets a match of 80%, so 80 cents to the dollar from the TRF, and it is very complicated to apply, but there we can help because we will manage it like the way we manage the global grant now. And if there will be DDF available, then we can put it into the pool and then get the credit for it and then apply it. So we can be the vehicle for that and manage it. And that's a very, very burdening task, you know, to apply, to fill it up, to and get it approved. And so when we have a lot of credibility with them, so that could be helpful. But it all boils down to how much the clubs have, how many clubs do we have, and how much money is in the district as DDF. And these are things that can easily be found out. If you bring more Rotary clubs, then it's always like if you want 4 or 5 schools, and you bring 4 or 5 clubs, and every club brings, you know, maybe $2,000, then you may be in $1 million. And that's the other point. The other point is that I don't know if we need 50,000 euro to start with. I think we can manage for the first year with less. I think, you know, $20,000 would even be enough to start with.
Depends how many schools we want to do. I mean,
right. No, I think in terms, you're absolutely right. I think in terms of schools, we need to think about in terms of, you know, 4 or 5 schools. I mean, you know,
we don't have to go big, you know, after 2 schools and then we go very big. We have to take it step by step.
That's right. So next year, if we do 5 schools, we manage to do the following. First of all, of course, we will work much longer because we know we prepared, and so it will be a full year. And then it can be more than one place, more than one city. And if we have 5 schools instead of 2 or 7 schools, whatever you, we have a very reasonable number. We can still apply enough attention and so forth. Now, relative to the supporting of experts, like you said, that we want to get some people and that maybe they could be volunteers and all that. There's a caveat on that. There's a little twist on that. So the experts usually are quite enthusiastic in terms of wanting to support. And, you know, of course, Harry is unique in his knowledge and is willing to join, but there are a lot of people, you know, in the profession that really want to help. But, and there is a big but, they don't know anything about education in general. And even if they do, they may know something about classical education, not about modern thinking of leadership, self-managed research, the kind of thing that we're trying to do.
But that's not Harry.
That's not Harry. Harry is unique, but Harry is unique on water management and relations with people and with the local Rotary club and traveling to Albania and playing Lego that I play.
How to deal with young kids is a different story.
Right.
Yes.
That's the only thing. Probably you need some training.
Right. The fact that we know that Harry has it is that we know that he likes Lego. That's a clear test, you know. If someone likes Lego, they like to build. And so,
by the way, I have one other question, and then let's close the subject of the funding. Did you have any time contact with the Dutch Rotary clubs?
Well, it's a very good question. We had a remote connection with a club in Delft through a club in Israel that the president of which comes from either Delft or The Hague. I don't remember where exactly, but he comes. He's a Dutchman, and he's an Israeli for many years, and so we have one connection like this, and we were supposed to have them set up a twinning. It didn't work yet, but we really want to do it very much. Now, the Netherlands had a lot to offer because Netherlands and water, of course, these are almost synonyms, right? And advanced agriculture also, you know, very.
We have a lot of similarities.
Right. Right, exactly. So that working with the Netherlands would be lovely, and by all means, having a Rotary club in Den Haag or Amsterdam, or a few clubs were pulled together and doing that kind of work. I think it would be lovely. What it offers to the clubs, and that's really very special,
Yeah.
that they can bring in not just money, but really something from their own knowledge, and something the country is well known for, and so forth. So it's it doesn't. We don't have any intention for this to be coming only technology from Israel or what have you. I mean, other people
Yeah.
have excellent solutions as well. And when we talk about the environment and sea and protection of sea, the relations between Holland and its sea and shoreline, is of course a story in itself. And so,
Yeah.
so yes, there are a lot of things that we can get from Holland, not just funding.
Okay, okay. I've gotten on my radar the Rotarian who is coordinating international water for all the Rotary clubs in the Netherlands.
All right.
He's
Okay.
He's a good friend of my brother, and he worked for me in my project in Egypt. So
All
we
right. There you go.
quite well.
There you go.
He's retired. He's even older as I am, 75 years, but he still is active in this field. So I might sound him. And in fact, maybe the word is seed money, but also maybe also to provide expertise from different clubs if that is necessary.
Right. Right.
So,
And
that would be
this would be excellent. And by the way, I think that it may even be interesting for them to consider the fact that we can consider some schools in the Netherlands as well, because what we do, I mean, the schooling system in Western Europe, is advanced, but what we do in terms of STEM and the relationship we build between water utilities and the schools, in the way that this is not just water teaching or how to save water or how to help protect the sewage and the and the reclamation or what have you, but rather help that schools teach and study sciences based on current activities in the world. Now, there may be excellent technology in Holland in general, like I know from my days in the defense, the TNO, in Holland, a fascinating facility like our DARPA and our Rafael and others. I mean, they stand up to Elbit and what have you, especially in the underwater world where I come from. I mean, they're really world leaders. They're not teachers in schools. And there is a big gap. It's a big gap that we need to respect, to understand that it's their methodology, approach, content in itself, approach to schools, being attentive to the schools and what have you. A lot of expertise go into this bridging. And if there is a desire to leverage the wonderful technology that's there in the Netherlands. For instance, in terms of agriculture and extreme high-end production of food, which obviously is a global problem, and obviously Holland is one of or maybe the world leader in that respect. Tons of tomato per square for a acre. I mean, no one does it better than the Dutch people.
But the interesting part is also how you are managing it. Huh?
And that's right.
They are managing groundwater level per centimeter.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. And so, but to be able to take these cutting edge achievements and turn them into teaching content where on one hand it's advantageous, adventurous, interesting and so forth, but also it shows first one equation with one unknown, Corona. So we were teaching exponential numbers and what is exponential function, basically to be able to extract the essence out of those items so that you stay bound to the curricula. This is something they need to know how to do. And if they will be interested, then it's not just donation of money, but also they will be able to get something out of it. and be able to experience it. And of course, again, it will be practiced in Holland differently than in Albania and Israel and so forth, but that doesn't matter. There are some principles here that apply, and someone retired with a connection that you say may be interested. And now when doing this with a school in Tirana and a school in, someplace in the Netherlands, then you have a different ball going, because they may have an interest. They will explore it, and they will see for themselves.
Okay. Let them adopt a number of Albanian schools.
Okay. Yes, and then they can adopt a number of Albanian schools, and then it's certainly a possibility.
Yeah. Good.
Okay.
So we have a lot of ideas, but how not to proceed. I think also Elisabetta had some contacts with the schools. They have their own wishes, ideas, how to continue.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be the best. I think what we need to do is potentially get 5 schools on the radar screen, 4, 6, doesn't matter, but, establish initial connection, do it in the same way that we did now, so that we have the connection. So if we need to report to the ministry, then we can do it. We did have the Ministry of Education involved in the beginning.
Yes.
You insisted on, so we did. So what we need to do, of course, is provide them a report. Since they were there in the beginning, we need to summarize the year, hear from the schools, and be able to issue a report of 1 page, not more. They don't have time and patience to read more. But in 1 word, in 1 page, to say what we did, what we achieved, how we want to proceed, that we want to expand it, maybe have 1 sentence feedback from the school. Enjoyed it, we want to do more, we want to do longer, or what have you. And so that we can issue such a report to the ministry, maybe with 2 paragraphs quoted from the schoolmasters of the participating schools. And then we apply to them and ask them, and we don't wait. We start to talk with schools on our own, but they are in the loop. And I'm sure that like every other government and so forth, given that there's summer vacation, some of them will go on vacation soon, so we need to do it quickly. But I say that's what we need to do this wrap-up. And then in parallel, how I can approach the Rotary Club and then see with them if we can have another 1 or 2 Rotary clubs that are interested. What would be the next city, Harry, if we want to consider that?
Well, that's probably the best question is to Elisabetta. I think the choice of the city is, for me, determined by the available technology. So a utility which has wastewater treatment is probably more interesting, and it is also the quality of the management who have to wish to contribute. We were lucky with Tirana. There is 1 utility. I'm not sure whether they have wastewater treatment, but the gentleman, the managing director, is 100% will be supportive. That is Korcha.
Yes, they do have also wastewater.
Yeah, the best
okay,
would
so
be to
that would be
to someone like that.
And that is also a little bit dispersed over the country, so that has its also its advantages, and maybe one in the south, Flora, for instance.
We don't have to stick to 1 city. I mean, we can have 5 schools in 5 different cities.
Yes,
We
that's
can
right.
do that too.
Okay. 2 cities is easier because you talk to 2 utilities first, so you can have 5 schools in 2 cities. It would be easier, but whatever you find out, because if you have a school for every a utility for every school, it becomes more challenging, because there are not just the 5 school teams and faculty, but there will be 5, because you see utilities will have different tastes, different points to emphasis, different budget concern, different people who are responsible for PR and what have you. So it's it's a big load.
Yes, we will go where we haven't a successful experience already. We wouldn't go somewhere just to test it. So
where we have a good experience,
places.
and as Harry says, and as you said, you know, someone that's open-minded.
Oh, yeah.
And what we can offer for that, that was very successful so far, if you open up, you know, the discussion and they're willing to listen, we can come on board and present it to the utility. And through the presentation, they may have different questions and so forth. And based on our experience, we can provide them more insight and they can get a feel of how they can twist the program to match their needs. For instance, I'll give you an example. What has happened in the Cluj in Romania, they have a big water museum that is at the hardcore of their educational activities. So they wanted us to interact with that. So we are, you know, generating a program now on what we do with museums, which we have many, many in Israel. Water sites and that act as museums. Some of them are old wells, some of them are, you know, other facilities, some of them are technical facilities and so forth. We don't have that many old pumping stations like, you know, in Europe because Israel is young. But we do have a lot of ancient sites. So we're putting together something that would match their need to emphasize those museums. And what we're doing is we're suggesting to them how to revive the museums and turn them into experimental playgrounds, so that it is not a place that the students come to and they see a pipe and they see an engine, a motor, an electric motor, but these are young students. They don't have a feeling for an electric motor or a diesel motor. If it's not live, it's not functioning, they have difficulty relating to it. So can you build a little Lego model that will demonstrate what it is? Can you have it running? Can you show a movie around it? What can the teachers, the students build as a model to experiment what is shown as static, you know, big beast in the museum? So that's the kind of thing they asked us to do, and that's what we're thinking of, building models like this. But this came about because the utility said our activity for education is centered around the museum. What can you do to catch up with that? So we said, fine, here's what we can do. And so it's very important to talk to the utilities and to see how they see the interaction, and then build something that's responsive to them. Now, if they're open-minded and they can relate to the fact that we had, you know, 16,000 students go through our programs, and most of them reporting that they were thrilled, and hundreds of teachers and whatever, and they understand it's something unique, and we can then start a dialogue. And when that happens and they feel the value, they will open up to investment as well, because they have to see the value, and it's very legitimate for them to see like what's in it for them, and so forth. So this idea that when you come to utility, you say, well, we can get you into the school, not for 2 hours of an explanation of how to protect the wastewater, but we can get you into the school for 50 hours through the year long, where the teachers are paid for by the government and so forth, because we're teaching physics. We use your content, but we're teaching physics. That's a trick that would open their mind, because then they have access, they can put their logo, they can be prominent in there. Then, you know, they don't feel the school is doing them a favor. It's the other way around. And they come around and they help on teaching of mathematics. And so it's a different relationship altogether. And that is something that for them to pay $10,000 or $20,000 for such a thing, it's a completely different thing than what you're used to. So, this we ought to explain to someone senior at the water utility, and we can see what that leads. Okay, I suggest we will take everything we discussed today, and Ram, we put together some sort of a summary of the ideas. We have the call recorded, so it will be concise, and we can have something to work on, and you can work with the schools.
And if I may I say something? Yes, for the next step forward. I think the target of the next program should be that we have 25 to 30 qualified teachers who are able to deliver the program in Albania. I don't think that half a page report is sufficient, Amnon. It's the executive summary, but we would need at least 10 pages, partly based on your review. So please provided. I think it would also be good, Elisabetta, if you have a session with the two schools, the teachers, to look at their experiences, what they would like to see in the future, so that also their clear wishes are on the table. I think that is important. Let's say for the people behind me, they want to see that this is something which is really needed. It might be also very good for the Ministry of Education. And then, yes, let us think from our discussions how we would structure it. Do we have a timeline in view? You were talking about some after service to the existing groups, but we probably would like to start to train the teachers. When? September,
Well,
October?
yes, I
What's
would
the
say,
timeline?
yeah, we
that's
can put,
important.
yeah, we can put some draft, thought of timeline, and then you can respond to it. I would say the following. First of all, when does the school year end in Albania?
It has already ended.
And
Just
it has
last
already
week,
ended.
right?
Last week.
Was
So,
that?
like in Israel these days now. So maybe the first thing to do is for you to have some, formal, maybe, not a half a page or maybe, but mostly way shorter than a page report from every school. So with the feedback from the school, we liked it, we didn't like it, the student liked it, and so forth. There was enough time, was not enough time. Content was okay, what we can do better, and so on. Very, very briefly from the school. So we have the name of the school on top of it, so we know it's very specific.
They will also send with a summary report that they can fill up, like a Google form that they can fill up. So it might be easier for you just to let them.
If you have a form, that's better.
Yes, it was sent to them, and I believe that.
Who sent it? You sent it?
I sent it, and I also CC'd you. And just look, I will resend it anyway, but. Encourage them to fill it up, and it will be easier for you to summarize it, because it's everything we need to know, basically.
Good. I think please do so, Nam, and also please let have their replies, please, their responses, so we know already how they reacted on it.
Right. Now we will put such a report. We actually, what is going to happen is we are putting now up a report, which we already have completed in Hebrew, and we're not translating it, which is really a report on the conclusion of the global grant. So it's a different report. Most of it is focused on Israeli schools, Jews and Arabs working together, Israeli industry and so forth. And one section of it relates to the pilot because it was part of the global grant, but it's only like one section. But this will be available in English, so you can certainly have that. And then you can go through this and say, all right, here's where we are, and look at what is happening in Israel. And this could be some sample of a goal. We don't necessarily have to go that way exactly, but these are the kind of things that we can do eventually when we proceed with the program. So that we can certainly do. And we can try to tailor something more specific along the lines of what we said here. I think that we don't need to wait. Because time is of the essence. Time is really the most important resource for the thing, more than funding, more than money. Time is the essence, the essential resource, because we live and we have, short lives, and we need to make best use of the time. And so what I would suggest is that we try to explore some connection with the utilities or with whatever, with such support in the Netherlands, as you said, with another support here, maybe with the ministry, all in parallel. It doesn't have to be sequential because we will end up nowhere. And then in terms of preparing for next year, then yes, we can do this course in the form of an on-the-job training with the teachers next year, following along the school year and, structured. And it doesn't need more than, 5 to 10 meetings at the most. The essence of which we did, because we had meetings with the schoolmaster, we had an introduction of the course and so forth. Now we will do a step deeper into the pedagogy and the content, but basically that's the kind of thing. And then what happens is the key elements of the training is how do you come about with picking a subject? How do you come about with doing a STEM project? How do you do a poster presentation? How do you take a video clip? Part of the courseware, why we call it on-the-job training, is just to do what we have been doing. So that is also part of the training. So because there's a limit to what you can explain to teachers theoretically, as compared to what happens when they actually do it. And by the way, when they do it, they may very well do it somewhat differently than what we had in mind, but it doesn't matter, so long as they do it. So that what happens is part of the training is the actual execution along the way. So we will do some of it before in the beginning of the year, but it's not as if we have to have 10 sessions in September so that they will be ready to carry on the year. That's not the way it works. Some introduction, and then we jump into the water.
Okay. So if Bram, I mean, if he would be so kind just to share some points of discussion, what we discussed, and then so that we can all follow up accordingly. And yeah,
I will prepare a summary of this meeting and send it to you. Please also send me the logos as we discussed in the email a couple of days ago. I haven't received the logos both from you, Harry, and from Shukal.
Yes,
so
no,
make
I
sure
know
you
that.
send it to me.
I haven't yet the logo of Cemal Stafa School, but tomorrow I think I will send it to you.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I'm also working on that.
Logo too,
Yeah.
The Shukal logo also, send me the school's logo, but also Shukal's logo, so we can embed it in the certificate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Shall we try to have the note or the plan or whatever we may call it ready after the first week of July?
I think it's a good goal.
Well, unfortunately, I will not be in Albania, but then we have to do it by Zoom. But let us at least circulate our ideas and then try to knock it into shape. And we will take it then from there and see if this is the direction which is feasible.
Yes, probably. I think it's a good idea.
Okay, I will take the lead if you agree with me, Elisabetta. So let me just provide a small draft, and whatever you don't like, you change, and you want to be added. It's a working document. Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent. Very good.
Good.
Guys, it has been a pleasure like always. And,
yes, and I forgot one important thing. I should congratulate our young colleague with his new family extension.
Well, absolutely. Well deserved.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah. So
congratulations, Ram.
How is he or she doing?
He's doing very well. He's very
good. Very good. Very good.
Boy.
He's doing very well. Ram is learning how to function without sleep. Everything is all.
Well, if you have your headphones on, you will survive, Ram. That's how I did. By the way, my wife got excited about all the discussions with Israelis and said, I want to go back to Israel.
All right. Okay. We're waiting for you. And in fact, in order to welcome you properly, we changed our government. So now you can come.
Yes. No, I think it will be after my Albanian time, so next year. But she has a definitely wish to visit Bethlehem. I don't know why, but I also enjoyed being there, and it's good to have some friends there. I had them in on the West Bank, but it's good also to have friends in Israel itself.
By all means,
yes.
we will be glad to do it and to connect to your friends on the West Bank as well. And so it's all perfect. Very good.
And let us hope that we have some Albanian colleagues who are before me in Israel. That would be really lovely.
Very good. Okay.
Everybody can travel to Albania without any constraint.
Okay.
Yes,
So
we
that's
welcome
enough.
everyone.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you very much. And we
Thank
will
you
Thank
very
you.
much, and talk to you
Bye.
later. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
Bye.